Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly for pricing. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing the Rolex Oyster Perpetual GMT-Master II, the 126710 BLRO. It's the modern-day stainless steel Pepsi. A little bit of modern-day stainless steel Pepsi history here. When the watch arrived in 2018 with a steel case and the hallowed Pepsi bezel, it did so on a Jubilee bracelet. It wasn't until 2021 that you were able to option a full Oyster sports bracelet on the stainless steel Pepsi GMT Master II. So, all of that said, let's talk about fit and feel. In stainless steel, it's 40 millimeters in diameter, it's 12.2 millimeters thick. From lug tip to lug tip, the case is 48 millimeters. If you measure end link to end link, the total distance across the wrist is 51 millimeters and has a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll pop open the clasp, which Rolex has branded Oyster Lock, and we'll throw it on my wrist. And my wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. You get a good fit. The watch is low enough to fit underneath the cuff. It's fairly compact. I wouldn't recommend it for a wrist smaller than 14 centimeters circumference, but that's pretty small. That means some women are going to be able to wear this watch, so it has borderline unisex potential. I've definitely seen it done. And you can see down the barrel, those lugs are really nowhere near the edge of my wrist. The end links flare out a little bit more, but not disastrously so. Taking a quick look at the bracelet, this is the Oyster Bracelet. 3 links, a little beefier than the Jubilee. Polished centers, satin shoulders. There's a conforming end link to close the gap to the case with a more integrated look. There is a pronounced taper to the links as they move away from the case, and you can see that removable links are fixed by screws, and the profiles of the links are polished. Rolex makes its own cases, clasps, and bracelets. It has its own foundry, it smelts its own alloys, and it makes 904L steel for its steel watch applications. 904L is a higher nickel content steel that's more resistant to corrosion than the more common 316L. So, for example, it can deal with certain industrial acids. That's a minority play. You're not going to see that too often. Much more commonly, though, you will see body salt in sweat and sea salt, both of which this watch can shake off without rinsing. Now, taking a look at the clasp, we have Oyster clasps and we have Oyster Lock clasps, and this is the latter. So you can see there's a beak and a hook and a little spring-loaded lever. Those two things latch together. That's your first lock. The clamshell is your second lock. That's why this is Oyster Lock, not just an Oyster clasp. Polished flanks, polished straight through, satin shoulders. You can see there's a little Rolex crown. There's a kerf for digging your nail in under to open up the clamshell. And then we can take a look at the clasp interior. It's all of high polish, thick gauge material, quite secure. There's an easy link, tool-free adjustment that's 5 millimeters in and out, snap in, snap out without tools. And then if you look carefully, you can also see that there are 3 divots with little tracks inside of the clasp body, and you can use your strap tool to change the anchoring point of the bracelet for fit purposes. The case features sheer sides and high polish and squared off lugs with satin tops. This case design first arrived in 2005 with the 6-digit GMT Master II, called then the Super Case. It remains known as such to this day, but it's no longer super relative to the other Rolex models, as most of them feature something similar today. We have a screw-down trip-lock crown in steel. You know that because it has 3 dots and they're all symmetrical. 100-meter water resistance. We have a screwed-in Oyster case back. We have a bi-directional rotating bezel. This is a GMT bezel, so named because when the original GMT Master was created for Pan Am pilots, it was a single time zone watch that had a 24-hour hand permanently coupled to the 12-hour hand. And so on that 1954 original, really every GMT Master up until 1983, you would set that 24-hour hand to Greenwich Mean Time, and then based on whether the time of your arrival airport was GMT plus or GMT minus, you would turn clockwise or counterclockwise and then read the arrival time on the bezel. That's how that works. Well, since 1983, we've had GMT Master IIs, which means you can now adjust that 12-hour hand independently from the 24-hour hand. And since 2005, the insert in the bezel has been what Rolex calls Cerachrom ceramic, very, very scratch resistant. You can see that there's a sharp knurling outboard that makes this bezel easy to grip. And then all of the deposits, the numerals, the indices, the triangular index, that's all platinum that's deposited into the bezel to give it that metallized sheen and also to avoid oxidizing, tarnishing, or changing color over time. For the same reason, the hands, as well as the indices, are made of white gold. The dial is black lacquer. We have a Cyclops eye sapphire magnifier to more easily read the date, which has a lovely serify font. And of course, when you pull the crown out all the way, you move the 12 and the 24-hour hand in sync, and you activate hacking or stop seconds. Now, this watch features caliber 3285, which is a new generation Rolex movement that bowed on the GMTs in 2018 with the reference turnover. It is an automatic winder with bi-directional action. It uses a rotor bearing rather than the old jeweled staff to make it more shock tolerant. It also has a 70-hour power reserve compared to the older model's 48. It has the dual time capability, the stop seconds. It pivots on 31 joules, beats weight 8 beats per second. It is a COSC certified Swiss chronometer, but Rolex goes one better, taking the chronometer certified movement and as a fully assembled watch, testing it in 6 positions, and also testing it for power reserve, winding efficiency, water resistance, and the tolerance for chronometry of this fully assembled watch is -2 + 2 seconds per day. That is the basis for that term superlative chronometer on the dial. More movement features, several. We have a free-sprung balance that's adjusted with Rolex's signature micro-stella variable inertia nuts, and that free-sprung balance can be adjusted very precisely, but it also resists shock, as the timing won't permanently change because there is no mobile adjustment index. It also has a full dual-anchored balance bridge for more shock tolerance, an overcoil hairspring made by hand that centers the mass of the hairspring so that in any position the watch will keep very consistent time, neither gaining nor losing, and that hairspring is made of a blue oxidized niobium zirconium alloy that is highly anti-magnetic. And because this is the era of Rolex in-house Lume, you can see that lovely otherworldly Chromalite blue Rolex Lume. Note all 4 hands are luminescent. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.